Hello and welcome to the Vistage podcast. I'm your host, Marisa Kamal, and I'm very pleased to welcome Sid Dhamija. Welcome, Sid.
Thanks, Marissa. I appreciate it. Thanks
No,
for having
thank you. Yeah, no, thanks for joining us. Super excited to have you here in this conversation. So, look, we're very interested to hear what you do, and can you tell us about the formation of Cadena?
Absolutely. So Cadena it's a Spanish word called chain. So, and it also originally comes from a word called cadena de suministro, which is supply chain. So that was my sort of professional background before I started Cadena. So what Cadena does is we're a company which helps other companies grow in overseas regions. So if you look at it, growing in overseas regions is a very important source of growth for mid-size and large companies across the board. And especially the GCC region, the Gulf region. That's our home market here in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Bahrain, Qatar, and Oman. And this is one of the key regions for growth for many mid-sized and even large players within software, technology, and other kinds of industries. So number one, we help them grow in this region. Now, the problem statement for companies like these is that when you look at this region, it's almost like a black box for them in terms of growth, right? So it's very different from their home markets, say Germany, the US, India, Singapore. It's an expensive market, hiring local executives who are essentially worth their salt and have experience in the region can be a costly affair. The other day, I was having a discussion with a CEO, and they've been trying to hire executives here in the region, like a sales director. So we were kind of breaking down the expenses that they would have to go through. And then at some point you get to know that the impact, the cost to company, say for the first high level employee comes to be about $250,000 per annum. That's including all of the expenses that you have to take care of. Then in addition to that, you may have to add other team members, do some marketing, some events. So that itself takes another budget. So say you're moving up to maybe 400,000 per annum or $500,000. So that's the kind of impact some of these companies have to do in their very first year of opening in the region and trying to close their first contract, going from 0 to 1. Now, that may be a small amount for some companies. It may be a rounding error for some companies, even some companies that work with us. But for mid-sized companies, for smaller companies, even startups, that's an impact that is significant. And without any guarantees for signed contracts, guarantees for growth in the region, so this becomes an interesting decision for them to say, okay, should we hire locally or should we go and trust a company like Cadena, which is a partner which has the knowledge of how to grow in the region successfully, which has executives, technology prospects, pre-established relationships, and do it for a fraction of the cost. So that's where they say, let's go for Cadena, at least for the very first, let's say 10 contracts, and then build the team from there. So today we're proud to work with some of the largest companies, some of the most prominent software companies, startups, unicorns, and decacorns in the region who are trying to grow in the region. In addition to that, we also have a presence in the Mexico and US market, and we've set the first initial flags in Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia.
Awesome. And we'll come back to, I guess, your kind of adventures abroad, personally for Kadena. But I'm interested, like, clearly everybody wants to be in this region right now. And do you help, I guess, assess the market opportunity for companies, or do you get most of your business through referrals, or how does it work? Because you can see the opportunity, right? It's black and white for you, but it's so difficult when you're not based here.
Absolutely. So see, the good part is, Marissa, the companies that come with us, they do have a product market fit. They have very clear offering to the market, so they know which industries they usually can sell into successfully. They know the kind of prospects they can sell into. They've done it in the past in other regions. So it's not really about product market fit, though there may be some overlap, some areas where they're missing a regulatory point of view in terms of their go-to-market. They're missing some pricing. Their pricing may be too much, too low, or not the correct model. So those are things we definitely have a discussion with them and work on to support them when entering the market. That's the kind of knowledge that they can get from Cadena. But at the end of the day, the value we're really providing is we're getting them those signed contracts, right? The first few signed contracts. And that's how we measure success. So yes, there will of course be a learning in that journey, but we're getting them those signed contracts. We do it through, using our pre-established relationships and helping them access the market, doing some prospecting, marketing, and the whole sales cycle as well. We also have a system called Cadena Discovery Portal, where they can discover all the companies in the region where we maintain relationships. They can see the propensity, the interest level in buying a solution like that, the existing solutions that they have, incumbent softwares that they have, and also whether they pay on time or not. And then that's, of course, the closed loop information. It's not publicly available, and we only share it with our clients, but that's also important for them to know. Now, how we get in touch with them is, I'd like to add another point. I want to shed some light on the success rate of companies, right? When, let's say you're a mid-sized, a software company out of Germany or out of the UK, and, let's say you're doing maybe, let's say $20 million in revenue, and you have a good established team, the failure rate of companies when entering the GCC region is anywhere from 80 to 85% within the first 2 years. That means they fail to sign even a single contract within the first 2 years, and they either leave the region, or they continue in a different form. Maybe they use a partnership model, or maybe they use other channel sales model to successfully sell. And the third way, and another way companies fail, they successfully close 2 to 3 signed contracts, but they fail to get paid on time. And that becomes a very serious issue for them, because they've done the investment, they have the signed contracts, they've had those parties to celebrate the signed contracts, but now their problem is they're not getting paid on time. Of course, that may also be for other industries, not only software. But this is 3 ways that 85% of the companies are failing in the region. And adding to the fact that the investment that they've made in the region, it's not a cheap area to hire a local executive. I was, as I mentioned, talking recently, if you look at a sales director in the region, and Marissa, you've been in the market maybe for so long, and you have so much experience hiring, the answer is, even for a mid-sized company looking for a sales director of experience and proven signed contracts, she will be charging at a very minimum 50,000 dirhams, right? AED, as a base salary. Others, she may have family, spouse, and so on. Other expenses, healthcare, and visa expenses, insurance for the company setup. So all of those things add up for these companies. And then, you need other marketing and other things. So they've, not only are they failing after 2 years, they've spent a significant chunk of money in trying to grow in the region. So that's the problem statement. And of course, some companies are successful that way. I'm not saying that they cannot be successful, but for many companies, this is a failure rate. Now, how do we get in touch with the companies? Referrals are very good for us, because we've been very lucky as Cadena to work with some of the very you can say powerful and large and well-connected companies within either the startup ecosystem or established software companies doing it for 20, 30 years. So we work with some companies with more than 50,000 employees, worldwide. So referrals are always very good, but also typically they also come to us. When they do, a lot of the times the clients which come to us say, "Hey, how did you find us?" Well, we found you on Google. We were looking for a credible partner in the region that could help us grow. So that's how they come to us.
it feels like a no-brainer to work with you when the failure rate is 80 to 85% in the first 2 years. That's crazy. What are your success rates?
Oh, that's a good question. So with our success rates is, it's not 100% though. It's not 100%. I can tell you that for sure. Being very honest. But our success rate is, it's also depends on how you define success. So the way we define success is depending on, the company, the early assessment. We say, are you able to sign either your first one or two contracts in the first year of entering the market? That's successful. And if that contract is, say, if it's under if it's above your reservation price, you might want to charge, let's say, $100,000 per annum for your software. But if you're happy with 75 or a plus for your first contract, just to get your foot in the door, you should be happy with two of those the first year. And then you, of course, multiply that number by two the next year. So you need 4 contracts the next year. And now you have, 6 contracts, and you're doing business with them and you're transacting, and then you're getting paid on time regularly. We have also a business unit which supports you do that. But that's how we define success. And what's our success rate? I would say 95%. Also because at the end of the day, we can also choose to say no when we feel that we can't really do it. So we do say no to more than 2 companies a week, to be honest, where we believe we can't help them. But they may come back after a year or two, and they may be more capable of entering the market, or have their sort of prospect or proposal oriented toward the market. So
Yeah, well, you want to make sure it's the right time, don't you, for people, and not wasting their time and efforts, and bring it back when it's ready. So I'm interested, clearly you're the experts on helping businesses launch here, but how did you decide to go to, is it Mexico and the US? Like, what was that journey like for you?
absolutely. So we were doing fairly well. I think this is about 3 years ago. We were doing fairly well in the GCC region, and more than 2 of our clients came to us. Hey, said, the GCC is good, but we're also looking at other regions like, say, the US. Obviously it's the biggest economy in the world. Do you do something like that? And we always tell them, no, we don't really. We focus on here. We don't really do it there. But there did come a time when we got a few serious inquiries by our clients who said, we have the order ready for you when you're ready. So it came, and when 2 or 3 of your big clients say that, you want to take it, you want to listen to them, and that's the way we kind of run business at Cadena here. We follow what the clients want. We don't focus on the competitor. We focus on the clients, and what they want, we try to give them. So the journey started with me taking my first flight to, in this context, to the US and to Mexico. So what we do is we have search, sell, sign, and support methodology. So the 4 S's in helping a company grow overseas, right? So search for deals, help them sell, sign, get the actual signed contract in your hand, and then support the sale. That may be getting paid on time, that may be customer support, after sales, things like that. We do all of that. So in my visit in the US and meeting people I knew, I realized that, well, the opportunity to do the search and support stages, the first and last stage of the activity, could be done in Mexico. Right, it's near-shored support. And recently, Marissa, if you've been following the news, a lot of very large Mang companies have moved a lot of their customer support and other support functions to Mexico and India and other regions, but majorly Mexico because it's near-shore. So that was the opportunity there about 3 years ago, which I found. So I said, well, it must be so easy to set up in Mexico. Piece of cake. So I do speak Spanish, so it helped me. But anyway, so I went to Mexico. I got my residency, and that was fairly easy. But then I said I want to set up a company and we're going to invest. Well, it wasn't as easy as Dubai. you know, not at all. It wasn't as easy as Dubai. And, you know, there were times where, we had very qualified, look, I'll go through, we have two very qualified companies who wanted to work with Cadena, right? One was a very large, one of the biggest legal firms in Mexico, which had operations in South America as well. And the other was a very small company headed by a woman named Paula, right? So we had both. We could afford both of them at that time, so we're both within our budget. But I ended up deciding to go with Paula, and and because I saw that, because the level of dedication and attention that a small provider can give you, is bar none. And that's what sometimes you need, when you're in a new region. So that's how I personally realize how companies can end up choosing Cadena, because of that sort of personalized impact that when a small provider gives you, you at least have the confidence that when things go wrong, and they will, you're gonna have somebody who's gonna be there on WhatsApp, you're gonna be there on chat to at least help you. This is how it goes. Don't worry, we're gonna make it through. Anyway, I still ended up being in a long line waiting to get my documents approved, taking a flight from here to there, and getting told by the Mexican authorities, no, no, eso no va a funcionar, no funciona, and getting disappointed, like, no, this is exactly what was written on the website, and so of course I was going a little bit crazy. But when you have a real partner on the other side, explain you said this is how it works, just take it easy, we'll come back next week and it's going to happen. That's what you need, and that's what we do as Cadena as well in this region. When they can't get that signed contract, and when there's a delay, let's do it September, let's do it. You need a partner there who has done it before. uh, so I mean, I think that's the experience here, that obviously things weren't so digitized in Mexico, and I
Yeah,
was going a little bit crazy. But because I had a credible partner there, we were able to set up. And today, Marissa, we have more than 30 employees in Mexico supporting this search and support functions in for the US. And in addition, today we also have capabilities to sell and sign contracts with US companies and Canadian and other companies.
amazing, amazing. I'm laughing because I spent a couple of years in Brazil actually and covered Latin America as a region, including Mexico. So I traveled quite a lot to Mexico, but it's kind of all similar, like the way that it works. It's very like, I found it very kind of who you know, and sometimes a process that I thought was going to take 6 weeks takes a day, and then something relatively quick would take like 3 months. So it's pretty think
Exactly.
you take it for granted. Things are relatively quick here in the UAE, particularly if you know the right people, they can be super fast, but it's way more straightforward. And at least you had the language on your
Yeah.
side as well, because if you can't speak Spanish, then you
Oh,
stand
yeah.
no chance. So you've achieved so much already. What are the aspirations for the company in the next 5 years?
So, well, in the next 5 years, the goal is to essentially become the biggest or most prominent go-to-market service, go-to-market tech company in the world, right? So we're well on our path with in terms of our employee size and the kind of clients we have on board, and so we're looking for sustained growth in the GCC region to get as many companies as possible onboarded in the GCC. And then we're going to grow the US market, the US region equally. With those companies who have chosen to grow with us, they might grow in regions. And we have growth aspirations for Asia uh, upcoming in this year, where we're already set up, but we want to get started and do things in a big way. So that will take about 3 years more. So at the end of the day, the vision of being a new way to grow overseas, or the best way to grow overseas for any kind of mid-sized, large company, or one of the irons in the in the one of the tools in the bag of many companies that would like to go overseas. We can be one of three strategies. but we'd like to be one. So I think that's the goal. And in terms of the numbers, obviously we want to reach, scale in terms of capability. Our people are the backbone of our company, right? Even the technology as well as people. So we want to continue hiring the best people that we can afford and give them the best environment to succeed. And one of the things we're very proud of at Cadena is we are a company which focuses on giving, empowering our employees and giving them a environment wherein they feel safe and they want to continue for a long term. And this is why our retention rate is almost unbelievable figure. It's almost 87%. People who joined us, they don't leave us usually, and we want that to continue. So that would mean for us a larger human capital, human capacity to serve more clients.
That's amazing. And I'm, super passionate about like diversity, equity, inclusion, and company culture. What tips do you have to create and I guess maintain that culture, given you've scaled so quickly?
Great. So from our standpoint, we if we talk, let's say, about gender split, we have 65% plus females working for us, and in leadership positions they are more than, you can say, 70% in the company. So that's the gender standpoint. But from other standpoints, in terms of diversity, we are a company which is essentially you can say very diverse, because we're present in very different regions: Latin America, GCC region, Saudi Arabia, Asia. So naturally, we are a global company, so we are going to be diverse. At the same time, if you go to our website, you can also see that we call ourselves a human-powered business, in which diversity in inclusion is the paramount of importance. So everybody is welcome to work for Cadena, without even a single thought about that they will be judged on who they are.
And what do you think makes it like people want to stay and work with you? Sounds like I'm ready to sign up.
Thanks for that. So Melissa, I think the reason people want to stay is my own experience. Obviously, like most of us, we worked in large enterprises, large corporates, and I don't know if I would be overstepping my boundaries or going into not political correctness, but today corporate has become a little bit challenging for mental health, for especially the young people. I think maybe a little bit more senior people can handle, and they have that perspective. But when you're young, when you're in your 20s, maybe 30s, and you enter the corporate world today, there are so many challenges. There is some level of politics. There is job losses, layoffs, and so on. So people are going through this worldview in which work is a source of stress. It will affect my health. It's a given. My job is going to be challenging. And how do I get out? There's this retire early movement there. So all of these things which are popping. There's this lay flat, or I don't know what that is. Where there's lay flat movement, or silent quitting. So all
Yeah,
of
like
these
quiet
trends,
quitting, yeah.
I mean, I don't remember I've heard of these trends a few years ago. I mean, these are all new. I mean, or either the media is very good at covering them nowadays. But so the point is that I think the corporate culture needs a review. And because of that, we've tried to de-corporatize our company, make it really a friendly place. We don't even treat ourselves like a startup. We're a place where where we limit the meetings. We, keep each discussion short. We allow people to have their free time. We don't have any fixed start or leave time, because we are also a remote company, broadly speaking. So people have their free time, they have flexibility. So all of those things are so important for us. And obviously, we are getting results. I mean, if you see the growth of our employee, and in terms of revenue, we're getting the results. So for us, So for us, we make sure the employees comes first, and it's a source of happiness. Work should be a source of happiness rather than a source of stress. That's our
Yeah.
policy. And if they're happy, usually they're doing a good job.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think when you're outcomes focused and you're not watching the clock, people perform way better, and it's about like working smarter. And it really doesn't matter where people are or what time they clock in if they're getting the work done. And I
Mhm.
think, in big corporate cultures is a bit around people can be obsessed with that. And it's not healthy. It's about like maintaining a balance and accepting that, people have stuff going on outside of work as well. And I agree, work work should be a place. It shouldn't be somewhere you dread going. It should be like a source of happiness. So can you talk to me a bit around what would you say have been your biggest learnings since being a CEO?
So the biggest learnings has been from my side is that number one, you have to learn how to say no. And I don't mean that even in a personal context. That's pretty much given for any executive or any leader that they must know how to say no to things in their personal life, which don't have time in their schedule, but also in a business context. You have to learn to say no to opportunities, openings, even clients which may come up and which may derail your core objectives. So that's not that easy to do because, as an entrepreneur, you are, sort of an individual who gets excited about new concept, new strategies, new principles. So you have to learn how to say no, keep focus on the main tagline. Other thing is that, if you're not okay with taking risks, or if you're not okay with delegation and giving away control, if you don't know how to give away control, this is probably not for you. You know, sometimes you might have to give away control and give it a few months and have a poor result. But at least now you know that maybe you or this individual or this is something you can't give away control too easily. But if you're gonna retain control of everything in the business, number one, you might go crazy. But other but other than that, you'll never learn how to achieve scale,
Hmm.
with operations. And that's really important. And bit by bit, you need to learn that.
Yeah, those are really important. I think one of the biggest learnings for me in life, like personally and business, has been the art of saying no and not feeling guilty about it. I don't know whether that's like more of a feminine trait as well. Like I see my husband and male colleagues just be like, no, I'm not doing it. And I'm like, oh, like no, but now I am good at it. And actually, you realize that when you have good boundaries, people just don't cross them and they understand. And it's actually not a big deal. And it makes you way more effective.
I think Marissa, what it is, if you're the nice personality type, which a lot of us actually are. I think there's more nice personality types than like direct personality types. For us, it's a bit hard to say that, but we all learn it. When you need to learn it, you're gonna learn it. But entrepreneurship and leadership, as you know, Marissa, is where you need to really take that seriously.
Yeah, and you are forced to learn it in the end because you get so busy doing non-value add and stuff that doesn't have an ROI that you end up being like burnt out and also you haven't achieved anything. So it's much better to get stricter on those faster. Okay, so two more questions I think for you. The first one, I'd like to know, like, what are top traits of CEOs in your opinion?
I would say number one is risk taking. Look, a CEO has to be able to push the envelope in terms of growth, has to go in areas which are until now undiscovered, like I mentioned about going to different regions. And that also goes for our clients, those CEOs who come to us and say, hey, Sid, we want to grow in the GCC. Typically, that decision is made by a CEO who knows that this may be very valuable. It's not valuable now. We might lose money now, but maybe in 2 or 3 years, if we can land those 4 or 5 contracts, and this is such a booming region, that this may actually be our headquarters in the future. So they have that vision, and you have to take that risk. So that's something as a CEO it's non-negotiable.
Mhm.
Second thing is you need to, and this is one thing, Marissa, which I think is instead of improving, it's becoming a lost art. I'll tell you what it is. People are getting worse at sales. I have, I don't know, maybe it's my impression, or people are selling to me so much that I think people are becoming worse at sales, and that even is true in some cases for CEOs. They're talking too much, they're pitching too much, they're so focused on their own company or product that they can't take the other person's perspective on point, or they're so aggressive, like a dog. They're so aggressive, and they're jumping towards the contract, where they have to understand that to use some reverse psychology and take a step back and take it easy. So proper sales is a skill that a CEO needs. Usually they have the gravitas, and they have the ability to pull it off, but you need to upgrade or update your sales strategy. What worked probably in the 10, 20 years ago might not work now. And an example I'll give you is growing up, within the sales community, software sales community, they used to tell us never do the demo on the first meeting or the first WebEx, right? Because if you do the demo and you do everything, you give them the pricing, they don't need you, and bye bye. So, but now the game has changed. Now you need to do the demo on the very first call. In fact, you need to figure out the best parts of the system and just show it to them, give them. In fact, if you can do it in the first 15 minutes, do it. So, because that's maybe the attention spans have changed. So you need to be willing to upgrade your whole sales strategy, your personality, even your voice tonality sometimes, based on the client, based on the region. So that may be a sales point, but most CEOs are coming from a sales background, or at least in the industry that we serve. And finally, delegation I already mentioned. So those will be
Yeah.
the points.
I can see that on the sales side as well. Like, I think it's about having tenacity, but also, like, my experience is kind of like it's way more relationship led and can be like a slower burn. But equally, people don't have time to go for a coffee for an hour. It's like, can you swing by and do 30 minutes, or can we just jump on a Zoom? So all those kind of like niceties that you might build when you're walking to the coffee shop and stuff go. And it's like, okay, so how do you build that rapport super quick and get them interested in your product to want then that follow-up?
Absolutely.
You're
Absolutely.
bringing me back. I did an awful I did an awful demo a couple of years ago, and it's just like they were like, sorry, what problem is this solving? I was thinking.
Yeah.
So final question for you, Sid. Thank you. What advice would you give to your 18-year-old self now?
So to my 18-year self, like I would give to most 18-year-olds today, is number one is you have two paths. In the first path, they could give you they could put you and give you ratings. And this is what I mean, Marissa. So if you've ever gone through a job application in a very large company, you have like few sets of them, and they give you ratings on the first test you did. You got six out of 10. Then how was the other demo and other interview? So or if you want to emigrate to a country, let's say you want to emigrate to Australia, they're going to say, oh, you have an MBA, so you have so tick, 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 tick. In life, to an 18-year-old, they can put you in a box really quickly if you allow them. But the secret here, especially for you with so much competition, you don't have to be put into a box. You have to think for yourself. And possibly, if you can, you have to retain that independence of thought throughout your 20s. That means you need to get exposed to different concepts, be open-minded, and be willing to, Marissa, we're all entrepreneurs now, right? There's no permanent job. There's no job which is gonna, there's no cradle to grave job anymore. So I believe we're all entrepreneurs, right? Whether you're doing a gig, small gig, whether you're doing a small project for someone, so you have to think like that. Especially an 18-year-old has to think like an entrepreneur for perhaps the rest of their career. That means they're going to have to be independent, they're going to have to be risk-taking, and they're going to have to refrain from being put in a box. Oh, you're just great at doing this. But no, you got to be willing to do great at many things, maybe expert at one, but yes, I can go and do other things as well. You got to be really take that seriously. That would be my advice. I don't know if it makes sense. It probably doesn't, but
No,
you
it
know,
does make sense, and I love it actually, because I think quite often we do get put in a box, and you might have had a growth mindset, but you quickly lose that because you're so used to being told like this is your job, this is your area, and like particularly in big corporations, you don't tend to like cross over the line, so you really limit yourself and that ability to grow like mentally, and also you don't necessarily spend the time to like educate yourself in the same way that you would if you were like a typical entrepreneur and, you know, out and about just grafting for business all the time. It's different. So I think that's really good advice. Thank you. And no matter what environment you are in, to not box yourself off
right.
and keep thinking with that expansive mindset. So, Sid, thank you so much. This has been incredibly insightful, and I've really enjoyed it, and I know our listeners will too. We'll include all your details on where to find you, and yeah, let's continue the conversation another day.
Thank you, Marissa. A lot of fun. Take
Thank
care.
you. Take care.